is all about how you're able to make your resources work, and something we do look towards is going to be those junglers. You're on two very proactive junglers, the Volibear versus Jarvan. We've seen it all tournament long. This is going to be something of a bit of, can they get creative with it?
I love that subject as well, because you can only imagine that some of them will be skipping camps to kind of just try and get tempo ahead of the other jungler, right? So I feel like specifically mid lane as well, the setup for both mid laners, it can come down to the first 2v2, and then it's just like whoever really starts the 2v2 to get all the CC locked down, or it can just be about who gets to the lane before the other jungler while they're still clearing Raptors if they decide to take that camp. I really feel like doing the jungle tracking in the early game is going to be pivotal, at least on the first clear of the game.
Okay, so let's see what happens with level 1 wards. That's been a big factor for teams which have tried to take down LDLC. Of course, no one has managed to do that just yet, but if Yike gets to go untracked, gets to go very close to that mid lane again, kind of go like Red, Raptors, Gromp, kind of stick around that mid lane, this could be a very impactful early game from LDLC, even if they don't get kills.
We'll have to wait and see. There are no more hypotheses. We are going to be knowing exactly how these two teams will do. It is Karmine Corp coming up against LDLC in the Amazon EU Masters Finals. And boy, oh boy, do we have a little bit of a David versus Goliath, because I gotta say it right off the bat, you're looking at LDLC, the Des talked about it so much, but these guys are on a tear, a historical run in the EU Masters.
12-0, they've been a real spark of light in this competition when you did have, this year, last year of Karmine Corp being so out there and so strong. LDLC kind of flipped the script a little bit and said, this is not just a one-team region in the LFL. This has got so much talent, and we want to get ourselves back on that board.
Yeah, and problem what makes it so difficult as well is that they have stellar early games, and even when they do fumble their early games, as we sometimes see, we saw it against the Go Rogue, we saw it against X7, they find ways to stay competitive, and they don't really drop the ball, they keep their calm, and they find ways to get back into the game. And that's really what makes them such a scary team. Even when you get ahead in the early game, even when you play towards your own win conditions, LDLC somehow, they just continuously find a way.
And that's the big thing as well. You talk about their early games, you can see how definitive they are as well. The fastest average game time as well, just clocking in a little bit over 28 minutes. So it is a team that when you misstep, they will just continuously punish you.
And the thing which is really interesting there for me is that actually they're not the most dominant early game team in the competition, but they will close out that game because of their dominant mid game. Like I said, it feels like their early game is solid. It serves the purpose of getting to the point where they are really, really strong. They don't need to kill you under tower dives before 10 minutes. They don't need to be doing that. They understand their powers and their power spikes of their compositions, and they play through that, honestly, better than most people in the competition.
Okay, so let's have a look at this. I thought Yike was going to continue down towards the bot side, but he did only skip his Croc so far, and he's just going to be starting up on Gromp there. So what you usually can do as Jarvan as well, if you know that the enemy team has priority down towards the bot side, which you will have in the Leona into the Rakan matchup from the support's perspective, is that you can try and catch them off guard before they get the crash on 3. This time around, though, the crash will probably come through, and the junglers will probably just continue to clear their camps.
And also, Red Raptor's Gromp does tend to be the fastest level 3 you get from junglers, and immediately what this allows Yike to do now is just clear towards the middle of the map. Make sure that you're on blue onto wolves. Again, it's just being closer to that lane in this mid lane, which can be very flippy early. You can see that there's an ignite taken from that Syndra. It's the electrocute. It's not going to be phase rush. It's not going to be TP. We see both these junglers, again, hovering around this lane. There's a lot of kill threat here.
Important to note here is that 113 was not spotted on his clear. There was a ward on his red, but he was not seen, so they don't know exactly where he is. He is just going to sit onto this mid lane. A flash Q would spell a very difficult situation for Ica, but again, very difficult to do that into a Syndra.
And if you haven't watched LDLC this tournament, I don't know how you can't have done that at this point. They're such an exciting team to watch. This is what they do. They're so good at looking at these volatile matchups mid lane and saying, okay, we'll match up our timings, jungler's going to be here, or support's going to be here at a dangerous point in the wave, and they cover Ica so well.
This is so dangerous for Capo. He always used the jump. He's still got the flash, but let's see if Yike can play spoiler.
Gonna see him now. He's gonna hold the flag and drag for a little bit. Doesn't catch the boomerang on the back side of it, but the flag and drag into the flash is perfect. They flash on top of him. They get it. Wait, no, he cannot. And that is first blood going over to LDLC.
And just like that, Capo, he should have known that Yike was making his way up there. They got the bottom side scuttled, so there's only on the top side of the map that he could have been. The crash didn't come through fast enough, and when he jumped and still stayed aggressive, well, that's when he was punished by Yike.
Okay, and if Karmine Corp need to get ahead in this early game, that's what we can't. That's the question we posited to them. Thought that mid lane might be one of the places they could get that lead. Didn't manage to get it so far. Top lane, another very important part of Karmine Corp's composition, didn't manage to find the lead there either.
This is, again, just looking at it here, it kind of as he said, should have really known that he didn't have the pressure from his jungler, and they actually saw him on a ward. You can see in the minimap, he goes over that vision, so he knows well and where this Jarvan is.
Of course, but once again, just phenomenal stuff from Yike as well. Even when the flash comes out from Cabo, he immediately sees it and punishes once again. So I feel like Yike, despite not having success with going down towards the bot side, had a clear game plan all along that he could just make his move up towards the top side of the map. And once again, LDLC in the early game, they gained themselves a small lead.
And it's, again, it's a lead in the right place as well. You've now got a Warden's Mail on your side versus largely AD topside. I know there's mixed damage on both Nara and Volibear, but still, Warden's Mail, such an incredibly efficient item as one of those components. And suddenly, you're looking at this as a cull on Nara and thinking, well, I'm going to have to wait a while until I really have the impact I want on this map. And that's going to start hampering Karmine Corp getting the early game leads again, which we've asked of them.
See what they want to go for it now. Of course, as you mentioned, the Warden's Mail makes it even harder to get down onto that Scion in the top side. And again, 113, he's on this Volibear, which is known for its early game prowess. We haven't really seen much from him just yet. I want to see if he can make something work. And right now, he's going to walk straight into Yike, but is a level ahead, has those 2 camps up, so he is still going to be a very, you know, big threat into the Volibear.
But even then, it's like, Volibear has power early. Yeah, he does when you don't know where he is most of the time. And again, it's just being spotted again. Yike, making sure that he's hanging around the enemy Raptor Pit. Turns up there an awful lot in the early game. And LDLC, again, they might not get the largest gold advantages in the early game. Again, you can see it's actually fairly even. But they're just making sure that Karmine Corp, with their early power, can't do anything with it. It's still an impactful early game if it doesn't show in the gold.
And I feel like it's so important that you get the Drake, because you take it back to the discussion we had about the drafts initially, right? If LDLC just gets the Drake staggering from the early game, then all of a sudden, well, about 25 minutes, you're going to be up against potential soul fight. And if you're not feeling comfortable, and if your early game is not going your way, well, it's going to be incredibly dangerous for you. Once again, you have to get these tools ahead, right? Capo in a side lane, LeBlanc in the mid lane as well, because this Scion, as long as he keeps on stacking these armors, these magic resists later into the game, no one's going to be able to blow him up, and that's going to be a big difficulty for Karmine Corp.
We talk about Karmine Corp in their early game and why we expect so much from them, but you look at some of their stats during the entire main event of the Amazon EU Masters. First in goal difference at 14. First in team CS difference at 14 as well. These guys are, their bread and butter is just getting their lanes ahead.
Yeah, maybe it was a little bit of a spoiler earlier when we were talking about, oh, LDLC aren't actually the most dominant early game team. That's because Karmine Corp has stats like this. Look at that laning advantage. Their pound per pound players are so strong. 113 getting a little caught out.
He should be fine. He's just going to respect the fact that there was quite a few members of LDLC collapsing on him, so he'll have to forfeit the skull.
I saw a level 6 Syndra with soft shoes and Ignite coming down. So Goldberg was like waving frantically like, oh yeah, there's real kill pressure there.
And that's the big issue as well, right? Because if you just get caught off guard, yes, you can jump away as a Volibear, but he was not level 6 yet. He only had the flash to expand, so that could have been a real dicey situation. So we're going to see if they can still get that pressure going for them. 113 at least tries to get a little bit of pressure in the river, but in the end, this Color Crab will still go over to Iker, I think, once again. So LDLC still very comfortable in this early game so far.
And actually, one of the so we saw that obviously the Volibear had to back off in that bottom river. This is kind of this invisible pressure which LDLC again just managed to get time after time, and now this is starting to benefit the Syndra, who is starting to just pull ahead just a little bit in that CS, and it just means that if you're going to start shoving that lane, go into Fog of War, even LeBlanc doesn't really want to walk into Fog. Karmine Corp have to play so much more respectfully now. LDLC is starting to hit the power spikes.
No, was that stolen?
Yes, it was.
Oh
yeah.
Dear, that's not an unfun time. But we are going to see the Moonlight Vigil coming out onto the box side.
Okay.
And Terra forced to flash away, but Exakick needs to be a little bit more careful. Does have a little bit of a healing there from the Rakan and should be fine, but that's the burst potential you get with the Aphelios Rakan.
It is, and it's Aphelios with the Caliber and Crescendum. It's the rifle turrets, connoisseur of all that weaponry, and the single target damage with that is so difficult to play against once you hit that level 6 mark. Vex also hit level 6 up on the top side of the map, and actually he was behind the XP for a little while, so Yike hitting that power spike even on the top side now too.
So silver lining for this is that you can now rotate Antara out of the map quicker. Exakick getting a bit aggressive down towards the bot side. And Reckless does have flash. I'm going to hold it for now, but Exakick can move out of the map with an item advantage against the Rakan, but currently DOS is level 6, so Herald Fight on the top side might be in the favor of LDLC as well, just because they have that ultimate advantage currently.
Okay, and this is actually, if we're talking about these AD carries, getting close to those 1v1s, but this is something which both teams do. They play away from their AD carries. They let them have their own little playground in the bot lane. No one's really going to be playing around them. The supports leave, and it allows them go towards top side, and it looks like LDLC, again with the power spikes hit when they have these level 6s. They've survived up to that point. They're feeling very happy about this, and now Karmine Corp, again, just keep revisiting that point. Kind of wanted them to get ahead. Losing the Herald, it's just another difficulty they're going to have to overcome.
Another little thing that can go the way of LDLC. It means they control the pace, they control the tempo wherever they want to play it or put it. With a Dragon spawning in just over a minute and a half's time, you would imagine that's going to be going into the mid lane to maybe force something there, because like you mentioned as well, big level 6 power spikes coming in.
Yeah, but I feel like Antero might not be too far away from it either, but he's now going for a reset timer as well. Oh, he's actually going to cancel it. I was going to say you might go into the mid lane, just soak up some XP, make sure you get level 6, and then at least remain competitive with DOS in a potential team fight. He's got 1 minute to make it happen, but with resets coming through first from LDLC and the later resets coming through from Antero, specifically the support, the warding will come down faster from LDLC, and they should be setting themselves up more favorable for the Drake.
That was actually pretty close on that mid lane. I actually think Saken thought he would kill one of those backline minions with the Destor and get the chain through. Either just misjudged the still shot or the damage it was put out from it. But Ica now left alone in that 1v1 again. No people roaming up towards his lane, and we're left again in an even state where LDLC have largely neutralized this, what could have been a very active early game.
All right. Just over 45 seconds now until the Dragon spawns. Goldberg, where are you looking? What do you want to see? Do you even want to see both these teams fight at it, or are you expecting one just to leave it and go somewhere else?
I definitely feel like you need to play up the CC potential you have on the side of K-Corp with the Java, not the Java, with the Volibear and the Leona. If you can catch one member off guard, you can just instantly pop them up. We're still very early into the game. No one's really become tanky yet. If you do that and you can keep the Drake stacking going, but at least you've got some slim win condition or someone you can get ahead.
DOS slips in behind enemy vision. 1-3 caught out.
And they're going to be able to get a little bit of a CC chain going, but it's just the quickness for the ultimate of the Volibear. So not exactly the best of trades there for the side of Karmine Corp, but DOS still has to use his quickness.
Well, there are still several engaged tools left, but I mean, not having your jungler be able to get out with that get out of jail free card of that Volibear ultimate, I think that is more important for the fight, which might be brewing.
More pushing in this top side. It looks like the top laners are just kind of accepting they're not going to be part of this 4v4 potentially at the Dragon, as Ragnar takes a uncomfortable trade, and LDLC go back towards this Dragon. Now, Karmine Corp are in full awareness of this, but you can already see with 1-1-3 going towards that top side, they want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, and you know what we said from K-Corp? We wanted Tower, we wanted 1-1-3 to link up. Instead, it was Yike and DOS who was linking up. They are the one who were aggressive, right? So this mid-jungle support synergy that we've been speaking so much about from LDLC still showing up, and it's netting them this objective. Because yes, they started grouping up in the jungle from K-Corp, they started looking for something, but then lanes just started to get shoved in. Reckless was having to go down towards the bot side, collect the wave, and all of a sudden, the teamwork K-Corp tried to set up was split apart, and LDLC could just take care of the objective.
And we haven't really had much chance to talk about Yike and DOS as a duo this game yet, but honestly, this tournament, okay, look, jury's still out on who I think has been the best player this tournament, but I think best duo has been Yike and DOS for me. I think they have been incredible as jungle support. Already talked about the impact it has on neutralizing mid lanes, which can be volatile, but just in the game in general, LDLC's jungle support have been so impactful.
It's even so funny, you know, we had an interview with DOS as well, and he was talking about how it felt having Yike join the roster when they initially built LDLC, and Yike was the big question mark, because he was the new guy coming in from the 2nd division of France, so they're like, I'm a little scared of this one, but the more they started to spend time together, the more comfortable they got, and they had this system where, you know, every feedback is good feedback, doesn't matter how hard it is, we all want to improve, and you can say, tell rather, that has really helped that roster in terms of how they have this mid-jungle support synergy.
Ooh, ult pulled out by Hantera, not going to find anything. Of course, 1-3 didn't have the ult either, would have been a little hard to follow up, but that's still LDLC getting gold into that Syndra, who we said was actually maybe the one early game question mark from LDLC. You want them to get ahead. DOS maybe getting caught, but he is a Rakan, very, very slippery.
Combination with the Jarvan as well. They have such massive movement between the two of them that they just combo up so beautifully, and that's why we see this combination of jungle and support so often. They just synergize very, very well as well. So we'll see though. Scout of the week will land, stopping the chain.
Okay.
There's the ultimate. Saken needs to run away from this one here. He knew if he gets one more Q, he was dead.
Now imagine that when Syndra's just, if you give 1 or 2 kills to that Syndra, that trade goes from bad to worse. Both these mid laners, I love their confidence. They've both gone for the Sork shoes. They've both gone for the M-Band over getting some magic resist. And you can see what that means when you do just get hit by that one stray skill shot.
And down towards the bottom side, minion wave pushing in. Coming through, and I can't help but looking at the minimap right now. I'm looking at the plating in the mid lane. There's only 2 left for LDLC to take. In the bot lane, only 2 from the bot lane to take as well from that point of view. So, like, yes, they're a kill ahead right now, but there's also so massively ahead in terms of the gold that they've been able to pick up on the map as well. You take a look at the jungle camps.
Ooh.
Cabo.
Scary.
He's going to be fine for the moment, but will just take a very unfortunate trade and back himself away. Ragnar will have to be careful of those extended trades.
The problem is he can't even trade back, right? Because Ragnar has exhaust as well. So yes, the extended trade in a normal scenario would be super annoying. But then all of a sudden you're up against the top laner who's taking in another summoner spells. Reason why he had to back up was that there was no mid lane prior. Seiken was moving up towards that top side. He had to respect it. But even then, you can even see this strong side we wanted to get ahead from K-Corp. It's struggling.
Yeah, he laughs in the face of your Sunder and then exhausts you and walks away. I mean, it's still going to be a matchup which is going to slowly win out for Karmine Corp. It's just maybe not at the rate which you would quite like. Because, yeah, you've popped the Cull, you do have a CS advantage, but mid lane's actually where the point of action is
they get him in, and they're going to be able to CC him down. Seiken picks that one up. That is good proactive play, and Karmine Corp wipe up mid lane.
That's exactly what we needed to see from them. Unfortunately, it's a little too early to pick up the next objective, but that's what gains you the prior. That's what gains you a point of attack next time around. Problem is, for this next objective, Ica will still have flash. You don't have flash in the volley bear, so trying to replicate this is going to be difficult. And can you survive it? So if it's only on a 5-minute timer every time, it's going to be questionable to see.
So that play caught me a little bit off guard. I looked to the side, I was like, oh, it's top lane. And then suddenly, even the over vision, which LDLC had on the bot side of mid, Karmine Corp managed to at least get something there. And we do know, even though it's quite a large investment in summoners, you're absolutely right. The next fight, Karmine Corp going to be at a lower point of power because they can't flash onto their priority targets. In the individual 1v1, talked about how flippy this matchup can get, how swingy it can end up being. But LDLC, what can they do now with this summoner spell advantage?
Yeah, I feel like it's just going to be a little war of attrition here. Who can get the vision around the Drake? But once again, Execute pushed in bot all the time. Seiken, though, on better roam timer. They have to respect it. But once again, there's so much mobility in Yike and Dust's kit right now. And they know that. That's why they're not getting aggressive.
And that's the real power point of a lot of these team compositions. It is about that mobility. Now, mobility, because in the current era of League of Legends, most champions have a couple of dashes that are tacked onto them somewhere. You kind of forget about it. When you have the volleyball ult, helps you get that extra kind of target access. When you have all of these things across the board, it becomes ever more important to track that.
Well, Seiken clearing the wave in mid lane. We are going to have the dragon spawning in 13 seconds. Only the second Drake for either of these teams, so no one really on a world record setting pace for the soul, but good to have regardless. And you can see now Karmine Corp trying to push back the vision that was garnered by LDLC. And important to recognize here, DOS does have a stopwatch. He's the only one on either team that has it, so that could be pivotal if we go to a big 5v5.
But also look at the rotation currently on the minimap, right? I'm going to hold my mouse. Seiken getting aggressed on, but manages to back out. And here he is, Cabo. That's the guy I wanted to highlight. The decision-making coming through from LDLC is that, well, we don't want to fight for this Drake. We're just going to keep Ragnar in the top side. Yes, you can join in with Cabo Shot. We'll give over this objective, but we'll be able to retain pressure on the map. Cabo, he's losing so many minions on the top side right now to make this play happen.
And I do appreciate the, maybe the wisdom to not just go into the fog of war for these kind of fights. As you're saying, no one's on a world record setting pace for these Dragon Souls. It's not going to be a game winning play if you pick up that Dragon, but it could be a game losing one if you give over huge fights just kind of out of nowhere. So LDLC, just making sure that they're playing with vision first, making sure that they're not giving easy fights over to Karmine Corp, which is, again, one of the other things we mentioned. Karmine Corp are very happy to pick up scrappy fights because of their champions having the LeBlanc, the Ezreal, everyone kind of being able to hop into the fight very, very easily. And LDLC very content to not give them those fights.
I still felt like Ragnar could have excelled a little bit more on that top pressure instead, but he's still the one pushing in a wave. Second Rift Herald has spawned, and once again, we see the famous link up. Yike and DOS together once again to retain vision in the enemy's jungle, to apply pressure on their enemies. And I think they're doing it down towards the bot side currently because they want to break open that first turret. It's incredibly low already, and coming on this wave, yeah, we have it. Execute will just be able to pick up the first turret of the game.
And guys, I think I speak for everybody watching this game, that it has been a slow burner for a game one. This has very much been a, we know how we can win, we don't want to give it up. As I say that, Solar Flare does miss, Hantera can't really follow up, and this is the problem you're going to have as Karmine Corp. Very slippery to land on these LDLC champions.
And not even the Ashin Caster Curse can speed up the game too much. It was almost there. You can see the attempt, but I think you are right in terms of like maybe we would have expected a little more early aggression, but that for me, the onus was on Karmine Corp to do the aggressive plays. It's not an LDLC. LDLC are very happy to neutralize, and this is what they've done the entire tournament.
But that's what it comes down to, exactly. The fact that Karmine Corp, it's on them to make these plays, and as you said, LDLC, it's more about just sitting back, like giving over these few objectives, that's nothing to them. They're the one who'd be stacking on them, but if it comes down to fights around the soul for Karmine Corp, still you're happy about it. You just want the team fight scenarios to come through. You want to be able to plummet in that front to back line where you're playing for the affiliates afterwards.
The big thing I'm noticing is that, similar to what just happened there, you're not really 100% ready for the damage that's going to be coming down. Now Yike goes in aggressively, does use the ultimate as well, forces the ultimate out of 113, as we do see that the Aphelios was trying to help on the bottom side, as we can see Hantera going a bit aggressive. DOS is in a little bit of trouble. They flash him. They are able to get him down. Ike has to flash over the back of the pit, but at 113, he's already dead. Now it's a 4v5 as they try to make this one work. It's very scrappy. It's very all over the place, and that's 2 kills over to LDLC. Now, Cabochard, can you do anything? Not really. You're a little baby. There's nothing you can do in baby form.
And the big thing here is that LDLC, they do have power spikes to play around. Karmine Corp maybe over-engage a little into them, but you're engaging into an Aphelios, probably the king of all champions that want to be engaged into. Ragna's fine here. He's going to be okay.
But that's why we're talking about this composition. Ragnar so many times on the side. We saw it on the semi-finals as well. He gets so tanky to the point where you can throw everything at him.
Oh!
And it will matter, apparently, because he just one-shots him.
Oh my gosh, again, LDLC, they have the power spikes. Syndra, if you hit stuff onto a target, they pop at this point. Your Aphelios is at almost that 2-item mark. You have your level 2 ultimate. You're very happy to fight around your Aphelios in terms of spikes of power. Whereas Ezreal, for that fight, didn't have the Muramana. Couldn't say the same for Karmine Corp and what they could play around in terms of damage.
And this is what I was trying to get up to before the fight literally broke out, as we have a quick look at it, is that these are points now where the damage is so significant because of how late into the game it is.
Yeah, and this is kind of beyond the early game potential onslaught that could have come from Karmine Corp. I thought maybe they could have skirmished a little heavier, but they weren't willing to give LDLC the ability to kind of get their own leads, because you can see what happens when LDLC do reach their power spikes. I think Karmine Corp maybe split their focus a little much, but you can just see it's so hard to fight once that sun's in front of you.
And that's the problem as well. You use so many ultimates in the beginning of the skirmish, although when the members of LDLC finally started grouping up, once again, as Alex just said, they're split now. Members of LDLC, they're completely fine with this one. And the worst is that lots of these kills are going over to Execake, who's going to be your carry, who's going to be the guy who's going to be so incredibly difficult to deal with. And I mean, once again, Ragnar the Scion, this is going to be the story for the rest of the game now.
Just gets 50% HP taken off of what? Satan goes in, blink, and you'll miss it. That's how quickly he dies.
I mean,
Jesus.
Dies before the clone can even spawn. That's pretty quick.
It's when you look at your death recap and it just said 0, 0, 0.
Yeah. It's like, sorry, there's nothing else we can do here. As we set ourselves up, we come back into the game. It is now 45 seconds until the dragon spawns. Important to know, a couple of key flashes are down. Cabo, 113, and Hantera all waiting on theirs. You got key carries, though, here for the side of Karmine Corp that could do damage.
Could do damage, but they're actually now getting to that point where it's starting to be a more significant gold lead. Both actually side lane outer towers have gone down. This is another LDLC kind of specialty we've seen. Big fight happens. Oh, wait, actually an outer tower's fallen somewhere else in the map because either they've left Exekick there or someone else has been pushing it. And from that, LDLC are starting to accrue quite a large amount of gold.
Yeah, and they're starting to accrue quite a little amount of map pressure as well. The fact is that now Karmine Corp, they have to be wary of the Baron buff who's suddenly up. They have to be wary of the Drake as well. There's so many fronts of the map where they have to get defensive vision, but you don't have enough vision in your toolkit to actually deal with that. And all of a sudden, you're going to be put in a position that's going to be difficult to deal with. It allows you to not only go for the Drake immediately, because then LDLC would have just cross-mapped, and that allows now LDLC to just for free walk into the Drake instead.
As we were saying, you know, Karmine Corp, they do have 2 dragons in pocket. They're not upset letting away that dragon, but it does mean that for both teams, we are miles away from a soul. So we are starting to get into some seriously late-game territory, and I think both teams have options. But like you said, LDLC, they just have a much happier time playing the map with the composition they've built.
Then there are a couple of sad scenarios here for Karmine Corp, because if you get yourself an Ocean Soul, you're still against a team which is probably going to one-shot you, so you're not going to regen. You're also against a team that loves that Ocean Soul because they actually have a tank, which, as we said, you can't do the same to with something like your Ezreal or your Blanc. You can do significant damage, but they're going to get a lot of value out of an Ocean Soul. Karmine Corp giving up that dragon, it feels pretty bad for them, but they didn't have an option to take it really either. It's not worth them forcing.
And out of all the games where Cabo is not going for that hull breaker, I actually feel like this would have been a game where enabling a side lane instead probably could have bailed them out a little bit in terms of the pressure, because going for these team fights, it's just not going to work for you, right? It's going to be incredibly difficult.
And actually, that was a big thing which I picked up from the semifinals, where Karmine Corp have struggled with side lanes for most of this tournament, actually. And the Hullbreaker champions, which we saw that Cabochard bring out in that semifinals, kind of papered over the cracks there. Now, Cabochard does have an individual lead, does have tank-killing items, and will have some pressure in that side lane. Question is it going to be enough at this point? Because the LDLC, again, as we were saying, they've hit their power spikes, they can start darting that Baron, they have an Aphelios and a side that can tank and damage it so easily. I don't think Karmine Corp are going to find it easy to play around side lanes again.
And the thing is, once again, LDLC, they're so intelligent around their lane assignment too, right? Because you have teleport on Ragnar too, just pushing down towards the bottom side. Make Seiken be the one to respond him. So yes, you talk about the tank killing items, it's not going to matter because he's pushing on the top side, and it was Ica who's up there just before.
not only just that, but even if we do get into a big 5v5 fight where Karmine Corp have, say, the advantage, they get vision, whatever way it works out. Look at the stopwatches available to LDLC. You have a stopwatch on your Jarvan, you have a stopwatch on the Aphelios, and still from minute 10 on DOS. So this is still a team that's going to be very, very difficult for you to actually lock down and burst out.
Oh, well, speaking of that, DOS might get locked out.
Yeah, he's going to go for it, but they're going to have the ultimate here, and that's just so much damage. You can see them coming in now with Ragnar on the teleport. They will get Cabochard over the wall, but he will die anyway. Yike flashes away, and there's just not enough damage. Triple kill there for Exakick, and that's just huge from LDLC.
And the target acquisition by Karmine Corp was utterly all over the place. They go onto the Rakan, who has the stopwatch, has all the escape tools in the world, and they get blasted by the Aphelios.
But they're also so desperate, right? They just see one person out of position and just like, we have to get this guy. We have to get something back into this game. And because of that desperation, you make a move that's not favorable to you. It's easy for LDLC to collapse on you afterwards, and we just see how easily they're cleaned up. LDLC now, they get the Baron buff, and they're put in such a good position now.
And this is exactly what we talked about. You step too far, you go too far forward to try and make something happen. LDLC destroy you in this.
And this is maybe the most unfortunate situation you can walk into. You just walk into a 3-man Inferno, which you set up basically for them. The target choice of Karmine Corp here, it just feels like the very worst one you could have got. Again, it screams desperation. I think you're right.
I just love Nightmare. You were talking about how Dust was potentially getting caught, and all of a sudden I see 3K Corp members caught in a Cataclysm with Aphelios Moonlight Vigil with the Flamethrower coming through as well, and everyone just dies on my screen.
I call that one the Mega Infernum Bomb.
There you go.
We bring the fireworks here.
I don't even know how to respond to that one there.
No, just leave it, move on.
We can move on. But look at the goal difference here. Thank you so much to our observer. It's about 1,000 in the mid lane, about 2,000 in the jungle. Exakick is now ridiculously just so far accelerated. DOS will still need to be careful because that LeBlanc still does damage, but again, he's a Rakan.
And it does feel like LeBlanc has all of the agency left in this game for Karmine Corp, and it's not much. You're looking for miracle picks, you're looking for something. Again, this damage does add up. If you're removing someone's ability to engage on the side of LDLC, maybe it's something, but it's so hard to chain together.
And I just want to say, guys, I don't know, the last time I saw a top lane on a weak side like Sion be level 16, have more gold than the mid laner that's level 14 currently on the Syndra. Ragnar on weak side duty this game, he got one gank, and after that, man's just taking over, been a threat in these team fights, and you can see it. He's still the front line that they can't deal with. It's so easy for LDLC to set up a siege.
Okay, well, Karmine Corp's still trying to get something in those side lanes, talking about weak side, strong side, so it looks like Cabochard's just on his own side of his lonesome because LDLC not even entertaining the thought of kind of going to respond to that. They know where they're strong, they know they can pile in with this Baron buff, and they're very happy to continue down in the spot side for now.
He's very happy to go for it, but this is only a tier 2. Cabochard is going to hit Mega. I was thinking maybe they could go for a TP, but it's very deep if they want to go for it. It's all the way back in the river. And there we go. The stun goes landing the Hantera, who's just not very tanky. These solo flares have just been little whispers of flame on a very windy night. They have not been hitting their mark, but he does find on the backside. Seiken trying to find Yike, who's very, very low. He has to keep himself alive. Now Ragnar goes in and try and keep his team going, and will just be an absolute wall of meat and just soaks up absolutely everything.
Oh, Seiken's still on the side looking for something. It's not going to find it just yet, and it feels like Karmine Corp, they tried to call the bluff. They tried to say, you will not deal with this side lane, but then they just end up losing that Mind War. LDLC, they win the fight, and they get Cabochard's TP away from the side lane.
Seiken's got to go for something. You can see him, he's trying so hard, and they're getting them so low, but they can't really make it happen. DOS goes a little bit too far forward! Cabochard into the wall, and out of nowhere, a clean ace for Karmine Corp!
They turn the game upside down with that engage, and question is, how much on the map can they get now? There's no Baron to be taking. They can get the third Drake for themselves, but that's a statement engage, and that puts the morale back into the game.
And it looks like LDLC had found themselves the winning mind game. They'd called away the side laner. They'd found a pick. Surely they would have survived after that point with their Baron buff, with their gold lead, but no. Cabochard punishes so hard.
And when you need someone to step up, when you need a hero play, Cabochard has proven time and time again, he is the man for that play.
And it does feel like, you know, regardless of the analysis you have on Karmine Corp, the one thing you cannot take away from this squad is that mental fortitude. They were down 0-2 in that semi-finals. They were on the brink of being pushed out of this competition. He came back with a reverse sweep. In this first game, feels like it's pretty much unlosable for LDLC, and then that happens.
But even then, with an engage like this, the boys in blues, right, they'll have to replicate this somehow because it's still a lead over to the side of LDLC. It's still 2 inhibitors down. Mid lane has fallen. Bot lane has fallen. There's only top lane to deal with right now. LDLC, they can continue playing 2 lanes. They can play 1 lane if they want to because they still have that frontliner. And remember, that engage came off the back of an overextension of LDLC. They might not make the mistake again.
Yeah, and look again. Look, you can see LDLC said, okay, we're not allowing this to happen. You remember those 5 stopwatch or 3 stopwatches? We're now up to 5 stopwatches. You know, the only one that's broken is basically on Yike, who doesn't really need one given his items right now with the Death's Dance. And like you said, it's going to come down to maybe another miracle engage, but a Scout of the Week landing on the 1-1-3 isn't a great start to this. Cabo Shard, though, trying to look for something because he's going to go mega very, very soon. Ike is deleted, and all of a sudden we're feeling the momentum, Nightmare. We're feeling a little bit of a move. Flash. They're going to go for it. They're going to see if they can get Cabo to get something on the back of this. He's going to take a lot of damage, though, and he's a little bit isolated. It's a 3-man knockback, but the rest of his team wasn't there.
And he gets just a little ahead of himself. You can see the angle. He has that flash. You saw what happened in that last play. They get one lucky pick, but as Goldberg was saying before, it's just really hard to replicate this. And LDLC, they saw what happened the last time. They're not easily going to give it to him again.
And now K-Corp, they're going to be feeling the pressure of those inhibitors we spoke about as well. Mid lane pushing in, bot lane coming in as well. That means LDLC, they can continue with their pressure on the top side, and they can still continue getting out objectives. So even when they trade 1-for-1, which seems like a good situation for K-Corp, it still ends up favoring LDLC in the end.
It does feel, again, each minute that ticks by, even though Karmine Corp are up at that soul point, even though the gold is, it becomes more even in terms of percentage gold as you go on, LDLC's comp in a 5v5 is still so very, very happy to play around these grouped up fights. Gonna go back into the replay and see exactly what happened the last time, though, because, I mean, I could just get caught out very far out of position. Does have the stopwatch, but doesn't find a chance to use it.
It does have the stopwatch, does have the flash. Seems like he disrespected the momentum and the damage coming through. You see all the pick potential, actually beautiful. Mystic shot from Reckless on the left, House coming through from Cabochard on the right, and then the chain as well. And there we have it. What you talk about as well, Nightmare, he just gets too aggressive in this situation.
And as much as the Noah was kind of like the focal point of that last fight, and you can use the Jarvan Cataclysm as terrain for your own ultimate, again, it's just a little bit far removed from the rest of your team. The follow-up just wasn't there.
And the big thing now for Karmine Corp is Baron is on the table. LDLC basically have full control over where they're going, so they're going to have to fight for every little bit of vision. And not only that, they have inhibitors to deal with as well.
And we've seen some pretty large comebacks in this competition, and a lot of them have been through Baron steal. So I'm not going to write Karmine Corp off just yet. Again, the competition going to find it very, very hard to get towards this Baron. DOS is playing blocker, playing gatekeeper, but 113 does have that ultimate.
Not the best guns right now. Let's see if he gets the shurikens off the Gravitum coming through. That would change the situation. No, it's going to be Flamethrower as well. So he does have that AoE damage, but Baron still take a little time, but it's falling fast now.
Yeah, they can't really get in on top of this. You can see that 113 wants to go for something, but it's gone. It's dead. There's nothing you can do. Ica, though, he's going to be flashed on. There's the stopwatch we talked about earlier. They're going to try and jump in. Cabochard gets the stun off. They will kill off the Syndra. Now, the Aphelios is your next target. He flashy cleanses, and he's going to be able to take down Cabochard. That's a 1-for-1 trade as the ultimate comes out from the Jarvan. 113 forced to use his ultimate in defense. You still get the kill, you still get the Baron, and this is still momentum for LDLC.
And the Baron's the big thing here. Your base is sat there in tatters. One inhib still down, another one open. Karmine Corp, they're finding individual picks, and that's all well and good, but they can't chain them together into anything more than that.
It's not just individual pick. They might absolutely hate Ica. They keep finding him in these fights, but in the end, it's still Karmine Corp who falters. It's LDLC who gets to be the aggressives, and now Seikane might be the one who's getting some attention, but no, they'll just be escorting 2 supers in. They have the Baron buff. They might even potentially look for an end here.
Now the inhibitor is going to respawn, so they're probably just going to try and take that one off again, but they have to be very careful. Remember, Exakick had to flash and cleanse to try and get that kill onto Cabochard, so he doesn't have those tools available to himself.
And the difficult thing here now for LDLC, well, potentially difficult thing, is that they played around that top side where they had their vision. They've switched very quickly to the bot side of the map. Dangerous point about this is that you don't have the same kind of ward coverage. Dragon's coming up, Cabo has that TP, and we've seen what a big Gnar TP can do before. So LDLC not going to take that risk, going to reset, going to walk through their own side of the jungle, make sure that they're covering their bases.
And I feel like that's important to set as well the stakes where you need to succeed for Karmine Corp now, because it is about finding that flank, it is about finding that backline. The only fight that we saw K-Corp winning was the fact when 3 members were just pinned up against the wall. Doing that in an area around Drake here is going to be incredibly difficult, especially when you're not the team setting up for it. So there's a lot of pressure for K-Corp. They need to get backline access, and if they don't, LDLC, they should just be able to front to back it.
And to revisit what we kind of saw right off the bat, again, this is why Karmine Corp, we wanted them to have that early game lead. It's just difficult to play against this comp in the late game. If Ragnar is in the right spot, you don't get through them easily. LeBlanc does not want to dive over it. You can start blocking up someone like the Nara as well, and see now Yike on the backside, and LDLC setting up for one of those 5v5s yet again.
Remember, Karmine Corp, you do not have to flip for this objective. You do not need to go for this. This is only going to be sole point for LDLC. It will not be the soul itself. Seiken trying to go off the backside. It's secured as Cabo Shard's getting himself up to Mega. He's seeing if there's a bit of an angle to come in onto this 1-1-3, trying to see if he can facilitate at that as well. But again, Wagner just playing just bouncer, saying, look, you can't get anywhere near my team.
And just like that, they're just going to be escorting with the minion mate down towards the bot side. They're forcing K-Corp to pincer around. They have to go for the recalls instead. There's so much ground that K-Corp need to cover. They're just not going to be able to do it as a 5-man unit. LDLC, they're keeping the pressure up. They want that bot side inhibitor.
They still have the Baron up for just maybe one more wave. You can see it ticking down on that hotbar on the bottom left, and LDLC using this to just get themselves that last inhibitor.
You got to be so careful, those LDLC. You can't over-aggress onto this as you haven't got great guns. It is just the Gravitum and Infernum here, so they'll take their inhibitor, their prize, and they'll try and back themselves out. That's a lot of damage, and a slow as well because of the Sorelda's Grudge. Cabo Shard's building up the Mega once more. Doss does get himself back out with the paddle dance, and you can see they're Seiken up to the top side of your map. He's trying to find an angle.
Again, so LDLC, they have those two inhibs down, they have the minions helping them out, but they still don't have all of those wards cleared out on the bottom side of the jungle. This is the danger, but they're looking for the engage.
They're looking for Cabo, but he's got himself the base gate, so he's going to be able to get out. 1-1-3 needs to be careful. Seiken's on the backside, but Yike's going to play away. Try and keep Ike there, but oh my god! They try and burst him out, but he just can't do it. Cabo Shard goes in, but he loses the Mega before he can use the ultimate. And look at Exit Kick. He's just completely untouched and just free firing. It doesn't matter what Seiken's trying to do because your base is being torn to shreds.
And once again, you needed to deal with Exit Kick. When you're not able to do that, he's just going to load onto your team with all the damage that we're seeing. They're looking for the end now for the first game in this series.
They're going to go try and look for it. Seiken's nowhere near to be found. Reckless is still doing some pretty decent damage, but he only takes down the tank of the Scion, and that's going to be LDLC 1-0 up in this series, and they looked in total control.
And